Welcome to a Whirly Bear Productions podcast with me, Amber Williams. We explore film finance and distribution, featuring insights from filmmakers, entertainment lawyers, and industry experts. In this episode, we explore the journey of Michael Guerrini, the founder of YOTKO Productions and YOTKO Apparel. Michael is a passionate filmmaker and is on a mission to turn Perth into a new Hollywood. Despite being relatively new to the industry, his ambition and creativity know no bounds. Michael specialises in directing, cinematography, editing and colour grading. His first short film, Full Circle, is a black and white neo-noir action drama about an assassin realising something is wrong too late. Tune in as Michael chats with me about monetising short films and organising cinema screenings. He also shares his advice on budgeting and production for short filmmakers. Right, Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You are more than welcome. I'm really excited today. You sound very, very interesting and you're into lots of different things and you're extremely hardworking. You've got heaps of energy that you're bringing to the industry. So it's really exciting. Can you tell us a bit about what brought you to filmmaking?
Well, essentially the first thing that got me into primarily acting initially, and then it morphed into, like, symbiotically morphed into filmmaking, was when I was 4 or 5 years old. This is 2002, when my granddad took me to the theater to see Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and I was so, like, at the end of the movie, I was enthralled. It sparks happened where basically I really wanted to be like Spider-Man. And I asked my granddad, or in Greek I say papo, that's Greek for granddad. I said to him, like, what's that? Like, what is he, a Spider-Man? And he said, oh, that's an acting. And I said, oh, what's acting? And then he explained to me what acting is. And I said, that's what I want to do, because I thought if I do acting, then I can, like, replicate being Spider-Man at 5 years old. And from there, I had like an insane passion for Spider-Man. Legit, I was any sort of toy that existed from 2002 to 2003, from that era, from like Spider-Man 1, 2, 3. Growing up as a kid, I got spoiled and just had it. Like everything from the web shooters, from little dolls, the ones that you can, and the action figures, like the ones you can, like, change bits and bobs and all that stuff. But coincidentally in that, I started to get more and more fascinating with the concept of acting. And funny enough, around 2002, 2003, I went to my uncle and auntie's Greek Easter lunch, and one of my uncles brought along one of his old schoolmates that just came from America, and he was very popular and he was the life of the party, right? And when I found out that he was an actor, that kicked in my mind, and we started talking. We got along like a house on fire because we shared that interest, despite everyone else wanting to grab a piece of him. The thing is, as a 4 or 5 year old, I forgot his name, and it wasn't until that was all sad. I thought I was never gonna see him again. But it wasn't until 3 days later, when I was shopping around with my nan, and I went to the DVD section of a certain, like, retail chain store, and this was like DVD/VHS. This is when they were both, like, sort of coming around. But I saw in the VHS front cover, I saw him on the front cover of 10 Things I Hate About You. So
my God.
turns out it was he, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a claim to fame. Wow. Heath Ledger,
Yeah.
that's so cool. He's brilliant, isn't he? That's a shame.
He was brilliant. I was actually one of the last people to see him outside of his family and friends, because whenever he finished making a film, like every 2 or 3 films, he would come back home to catch up with friends and family, because this is before, like, Facebook and MySpace were really popular. This is early to mid 2000s. He would come back home just to catch up with friends and family, how's it all going, and keep himself grounded in that way. And around 2007, late 2007, he came back. 2008, he came back home to Perth for a little bit, just to, again, catch up with friends and family, the usual. And my uncle brought me along with him because I was still, fascinated with filmmaking and still passionate about it and all that. So came to me. Then he left for London to act in Imaginarium with Dr. Banassis. Then when he left London to go to New York, that's where he tragically passed away. So we were incredibly saddened. I was incredibly saddened knowing that, like, when you see someone, you interact with someone only to find out very recently after the fact they pass away for X, Y reason, and you get that sort of creepy, like not creepy, but sort of like
It's a chill,
weird
like a real
feeling.
shock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a shock. It's like, oh my God, I'm involved. I'm associated with the last few moments of this person. And it did a number of me when I was 11 years old, but still kept going, and it started growing here and there. I took media lessons when I was like in for films when I was a little kid, from 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Then when I graduated high school at 17, I wanted to go to uni, but I didn't get the minimum grades to study filmmaking there. But there's a community college, like a vocational sort of equivalent in Australia called TAFE, and they taught film there as well. So I thought, okay, this is my second chance. So at 18, I studied there. I got a diploma and an advanced diploma in 2015 and 2017, but took a bit of a gap year in 2016 to like, make some money and all that stuff. And so that's where I learned the process of making films. But even in the producing unit, they skimmed by a lot on the film distribution and the filmmaking money side, like in terms of how does a filmmaker like make money if they're not hired as part of crew or as under a big production company to where they give like give you a fixed income or fixed payment for whatever, right? And I thought, well, how does a producer make money on their end? Do they make some? I'm sure they make some sort of deal, but I just didn't know what the logistical operations were and what the financial reality was. They didn't teach me enough of that very well so much. They, not to their fault, because that's what they're sort of designed for, that institution, but it was more it was more about being employable rather than having a sense of entrepreneurship in any business field to a degree. So later on, when I started taking the plunge again, I started doing my photography and videography business as YOTKO Productions, because I started to delve more into photography and videography at the time, just doing normal client work, here and there for nightclubs, bars, events, promo stuff, music videos as well, and acting as well. I did some acting on the side as well for my main stuff, for other outside stuff like modeling projects, TV, local commercials, or even national commercials, and just short films, a couple as well. And that's how I networked with some other filmmakers as well in Perth throughout the whole time, and sort of simultaneously expanded my network throughout the following years. And then eventually it got to a point where, I was helping other people's films, but I wanted to start doing my own. I wanted to reignite that passion for myself. I wanted that to be my turn, so to speak. And then in the midst of me shooting my first documentary, I had at the end of 2020 these dreams, like these repeated dreams, after watching the movie Sin City, the black and white noir. And roughly around the same time, my mate Jeremy, we watched Chinatown, and he was describing like the noir aspect of the filmmaking and the detective sort of narrative behind it. And that was actually kind of captivating for me, because that was filmed around the 70s, so it still had that 50s, somewhat American European cinema aesthetic, that noir pulp that I kind of like. So I thought, okay, I'll try to sort of replicate that. And when I had this consistent dream of narrating my own story, which turned out to be full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we started shooting late around September 2022. But I had the script done the year prior, because I was focusing on making my documentary. I was sort of starting my own like little clothing apparel brand, simultaneously at the time. I had my hands on many pies, so I was stretching myself a little bit thin. But eventually I formed a crew. We got around to planning it and started shooting it. I had some friends work, and a good mate of mine from school work as the DOP. And when it came to casting, I always wanted to be like the main character. I always envisioned that. With the femme fatale, so the lady in the picture, it was one of those ones where I bumped into her. Her name's Cassandra Riper. I bumped into her at a music video shoot for another school institution called SAE. I figured I'd go just for the lols, like just want to do it, just just waste a day, and doing what I like. And when I saw her for the first time, it's like, has anyone, have you ever, either you personally or anyone who's watching this, has anyone ever had like a situation where they've had a dream where there was some random figure that you never even knew of or ever seen or associated about, just a random figure that your subconscious just created in your head through a dream or a nightmare or a vision, whatever, right? And then some period of time later, you find a basically a perfect resemblance of that as a real life person, or a closest like accurate version of that figure in your head
That's
in real
never
life.
happened to me, but that must have been very strange.
It was incredibly strange, and I thought like opportunity's knocking, so I have to like take my chance.
It's a
So
sign.
so yeah, it was a sign. So I said, hey, like introduced her, and I said, and we were in the midst of talking. We seemed to get along very well. And I asked her, like, I'm making this short film where you have a lady in it that is a killer, is like, foils my plot. And so I asked her, like, would you want to be in it? It's a paid role, so don't worry, and all that stuff. And the more I talked about it, the more captivated she was. And she said, yeah, sure, like I'm happy to do it. So that was it. And I was also working as security at the time, and I was working at a university's like bar, like lunchroom slash bar, because of the liquor licensing laws in Australia, they got to hire guards for that. And so I knew of another actor, Ron Arthurs, and I knew him of previous projects locally, but I thought, okay, this is another opportunity knocking, so I figured I'd go and ask him right there and there. And he seemed very keen to do it, so I got that locked in. My mates, Jeremy LeBruy, Jeremy Mullally, Jackson Smith, Jackson wanted to edit it, so I was like, all right, I'll let you have your shot. And then through the midst of like 2 or 3 months, I was connecting with a bunch of other random filmmakers in Perth that I seemed to gel along with and seemed to were equally as opportunistic to make something or to be a part of something, them for me and I for them. And so yeah, we started molding very well, assigned for other crews and all that. And we had to hire a film armorer as for the legalities of
Yeah, I
getting
wanted
the
to
weapon.
ask you about that. Tell us more
Yeah.
about that, and how much did it cost, and how did it all?
Um,
Where did you
Funny
find
enough,
them?
well, I hired initially I thought I wanted to try it myself. I wanted to like get a realistic looking gun because customs in Australia, you can't get airsoft guns. You can get gel blasters, but not in the state that I'm in. And so all the toy guns look obviously toy and fake. So I figured the best course of action would be to get some sort of Nerf gun that resembled a sniper rifle, sand out all the parts that's labeled Nerf and just paint it all black. I tried that and it didn't look realistic enough. It looked too shoddy. And I'm the kind where like if I want to get it done, I want to get it done right on the first try, as much as possible. So I got wind of a film armorer based in Perth named Brendan Moriarty. He is an armorer, and I, spoke to him online saying, I asked him for his rate. He said normally if it's your first production, $100 a day, but otherwise it'd be 200 a day. And that was like I was going to give him that quote anyway if he didn't have one in mind. So it just seemed
Yeah.
perfect. And
That's
basically,
not too bad, is it, actually?
yeah, he's a really lovely guy and very like he knows his stuff. He's very onto his stuff, so very professional. Essentially we started talking back and forth, like what sort of gun do you want that he had in his artillery. I saw the rifle and said, yep, that's the one. That's the one that brings. And sort of before on the day, but before the rest of the crew came, he came pretty early. We started shooting and he gave me a little tutorial on how to realistically like operate and assemble the gun. So that was pretty fun. And we also went a few weeks prior, we alerted the local cops just to let them know that, hey, we're shooting this short film. We're going to be carrying a gun in public view of the neighborhood. So if anyone calls the cops saying, "Oh, someone is trying to assassinate someone in a local residence front balcony," the cops can go, "Yeah, don't worry, we're notified. That's just a part of a film shoot. It's all good." We also do that due diligence, and we wrote letters to the surrounding houses, just letting you know that on this particular day, we're shooting a film. This is what's going on. So if you see me with a gun, don't worry. Like, I'm not going to commit a crime. Like, it's all part of a film, so don't worry.
That's good.
So
That's very professional of you, and could potentially have saved you time on the day. You could have had people coming over or complaints and things that would have delayed shooting. So that's really good. You took those precautions and took the time and thought it out properly. So
yeah, I've heard so many horror stories of that, people not doing the due diligence like that and end up backfiring on them immensely. And this is my first short film outside of film school, so I want to do it right. I want to do it completely proper and not indict myself, but also to make it as convenient as possible, because we all know it doesn't matter how big or how small a production, shoot days come with their own little challenges. So yeah, I just wanted that not to be the main challenge and just get along with it essentially. We took 2 days to shoot, and we shot it in chronological order, which was all good. It took editing roughly about 6 or 7 months because a lot of things got in the way. One, I was editing my doco as well. In the meantime, I was also working vast array of jobs, like other film related jobs. Life got in the way, and unfortunately, my mate who also worked on the film, his name was Jose. March last year, unfortunately, he passed away. So I took some time to grieve, just put that on hold for a little bit. Yeah. It's okay. Thank you though. But so yeah, unfortunately, he never got to see the final film, but I dedicated it to his honor later on. Essentially, I finally finished the color grading. Color grading was hell for me. It was really a challenge. The black and white stuff was fine because I learned that through a tutorial by a guy named Wakaz Kazi. He's like a colorist, and he's been in the game for quite some time. So he did a black and white video tutorial that I thought looked very good. So I'm like, all right, I'll replicate that onto my film. And I also I learned by myself how to bring back the color for the red, for the blood, and for the red dress and the red bag, because I really liked that black, white, and red aesthetic, because I was really trying to mirror Sin City. Sin City is mostly black and white, heavily saturated, but mostly black and white. And there's some hints of color here and there to captivate the design. And that's what I was trying to go for.
You did a great job. It looks excellent. Yeah.
Oh, thank
you. And slick, and yeah, it's a great film.
Thank you. That took a couple of months to complete because I've tripped over myself and a couple of times fumbled over and had to restart because I forgot to add this bit, and I had to manually readjust the color windows just so one portion doesn't spill over, or that one portion is too inconsistent with the red with the black and white monochrome contrast. So I had to manually, frame by frame, on a few of those shots. I had to frame by frame readjust every time, and sometimes there'll be some hiccups along the way or I'd forget something when I do another playthrough. Oh yeah, I need to go back and do it again and do this stuff. So that took a bit of a toll, but I had to do it. So then I then, once I got that color grading finished, I then went to my Foley artist, Andrew Santagini. He's like a audio whiz, he's brilliant, really in tune. He's definitely an ear guy. He could be blind and he will still paint a painting with his ears. I don't know how he does it, but so we spent a day recording the voiceovers as ADR, just in case, in the main edit with Jackson, as just an audio backup, just so that the audio was pretty good. And he also did the Foley for the gunshots, the non-diegetic sounds. So the gunshots, the shutting of the door, the walking on the bricks with my heels, the assembling, the touching steel of this when I'm assembling the gun, the clacking when I open up the Pelin case, all that stuff, right? And And I paid almost everybody. There was actually a couple who wanted to do it pro bono, and I was like, okay, "Are you sure? Because I'm happy to pay you. Just send me an invoice. I'll do it, and that's fine."
I
Oh
love
yeah,
that you
but
paid everyone. That's excellent.
yeah, and I wanted to because let's be honest here. People consciously or subconsciously, they do a better job when there's some sort of financial incentive to do so. They could be your best mates and mates, and you could be like that with them, right? But in all honesty, it doesn't matter who they are or who you are, what the character is. If you chuck some money in there, either to recoup their expenses or to even pay them for their efforts, they're going to be much more appreciative, and they're going to have a bit more oomph in their actions to help making it for you, which is going to make the difference. And also, yeah, so then eventually we got the film done and dusted by around early May of 2023. And in the midst of all that, in that first couple of years, I was also an avid fan, still am, but also an avid fan of a filmmaker called Alex Ferrari. And he sort of woke me up on the reality of, mainly the reality of indie film distribution and indie film marketing and indie film monetization, especially with like feature films, documentaries, and short films. He basically woke me up from that, and I saw the reality of how predatory that film distribution companies are, and how hard it actually is for indie filmmakers, especially when they're starting out, to not only to earn money but to be entrepreneurial or to make a living in their indie films without having to resort the lottery ticket, he calls it lottery ticket dream of, creating something, putting in short films, hope to God some rep from a big production company or like film agency or whatever likes your work and then gets you to project work on as a director or a producer, whatever, in insert big budget Hollywood movie here. And because I've seen so many horror stories of people that built that up only to realize that they go nowhere because that was their goal in mind. And I figured I wanted to be self-sustaining if I'm going to be an indie filmmaker. Like, I'm trying to set myself up so that even if I never achieve that Hollywood dream of being an acclaimed director or acclaimed actor or acclaimed producer, whatever, I can still do what I love and not just get by, but also thrive in doing what I'm doing by creating my audience, throughout, as well as helping other people, and in turn they help me and reciprocates and embiggens my network and my audience, through time. So that's essentially it.
I love that. And Alex gives some great advice, doesn't he? For anyone that's listening, he has a book, doesn't he? The Film Entrepreneur, I believe
the Rise of the Film Entrepreneur. I read that. That's my Bible. I read that religiously all throughout like mid 2022, and even still I peek my head in just to keep myself refreshed from the teachings within that book. And I listen to his podcast from then on, and I still rewatch or re-listen to some episodes just to keep my brain fresh and to keep myself like staying on the same line,
Yeah, for sure.
And
so
yeah,
I was just going to say, what was the budget and how did you go about like organizing the budget?
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 sort of thing when you're trying to cut corners and still look good. Like, good and cheap usually don't go together at all.
Yeah.
You can be as creative or as crafty or as resource minded as you can be. There's still a bit of a fine line between making good and cheap. If it's sort of you have the triangle and you can only pick two sides and that sort of angle. So things that are going to you want to look good or to present good, operate well, you do have to spend a little bit of money. So I was aware of that reality. Luckily, I put myself in a position through work, saving up and all that stuff for a couple of years prior, as well as during COVID lockdowns, to budget myself, as well as get into investing and just learn more about the film economics and just the economics of expenses and advertising and all that stuff, just to be very advantageous at the go, rather than stalling time and trying to like pick up the pace or trying to learn breadcrumbs or pick up breadcrumbs as I go. So to answer your question, the production budget at the end cost just under $2,000, so around 1,800, right? But it wasn't just strictly out of me. It was also through my two other producers, Hirsch and Tristan, my two good mates. So we made an agreement, like in paper, in writing, where it didn't matter how much us three would contribute, because we all knew that I would contribute financially like the most, because it's usually my baby, and that's fine, on them. And so as long as they economically chipped in a minimum of this much, then they're guaranteed, or not guarantee them, but I would entitle them all monetizable returns associated with Full Circle. And so that was the production budget. The marketing budget basically expanded like this. I wanted to do a screening, and I knew that I had to market it through social media. But because this is my first time, I knew that charging other filmmakers for a screening wasn't really going to go well, because I was just starting out and that much. But I knew that I had to afford it, right? So I got the quotes, and I did some work for a few months just to save up to do it. The cheapest quote to most theater seats ratio was for a 400-seater theater was 1,800 Australian dollars. I don't know what that is in pounds, but probably just, I don't know, right, 700 to 800 pounds, maybe something around there. Yeah, so I saved not all of it, but about 50 to 60% of that. My other two mates covered that amount. There was I approached to other like film forums and other Facebook film forums, local and WA made, WA wide, to say, like, I'm creating a screening. I want 5-6 other short films to be present, to make up the other 2 hours that I got scheduled. Because to me, it didn't make sense to charge like $15, $20 at the door just to show a short film for like that's 5 minutes long. It didn't make much practical sense. So I figured I wanted to give a bang for the buck value to my audience, and to throw other 5-6 other short films. And I wanted other people to see other local filmmakers work. So I put it on as an optional. You don't have to, if you wish to contribute, it'll be this much, but you don't have to contribute. This is more just, but if you do, I'll give you a share of the box office sales, box office rev at the end of the night, that sort of thing. And not only that, but we also created a ticket tier system where it was just general admission for like $20 for the night. And there was 7 short films, including Full Circle at the very end. We had 1 fight documentary, 2 action ones, and 2 more dramas. And we had 1 comedy, which was all pretty good. And we had a good reception. I brought my cast and crew along. Obviously, they didn't pay. They just got them to experience it, as well as the main filmmakers from the short films being presented, of course. Made it a big hoopla. I sold the tickets via Eventbrite, and I advertised it locally with a Facebook ad and an Instagram ad. And my budget for 3 weeks was $300 each. So that was $100 from me, another $100 from my mate Tristan, the other 100 from Tristan Hirsch per platform. So that's $600 each. And within that 3 weeks, I was looking at the metrics. I was looking at the analytics to see how much cost per click, wide radius, and how far they were. And for my end, for $100, it was not too bad, but I was just starting out, so I wasn't expecting that much success. I was just testing the waters, so to speak. So I did that, run that from that ad for about 3 weeks, just to make and at the same time, I was also posting the same like ticket link to my screening, on Facebook to the other. I was sharing it to the other film Facebook forums locally in Perth, to all of them, just shotgunning it all at once, essentially. Then the night came, and at the same time, we created Full Circle t-shirts, just showing, the t-shirts, and we were selling them individually. We were selling them for $35, but what we also did was create a ticket tier system so that it could either be like cheapest option was $20 for a standard ticket, or $40 where you get a ticket and a t-shirt, and then it was each tier we offered more, just like a crowdfunder, right? Where you set a certain price and they get more goodies, but we also made it discounted so that we can convince people to acquire and buy our merchandise as well. And we calculated them at a rate each tier, so that one, we were still profitable on all fronts, but also discounted from the individual prices combined, so that we gave our audiences a good deal, a good incentive to do it. Because think about it, would you rather have a one bundle deal for $35 for tickets and a t-shirt, when instead you can buy $20 for a ticket, and then when you're at the night, you see everyone buying it, think, oh fuck, I changed my mind, and then I need to charge you an extra $35 for the t-shirt, right? When you could have saved money just getting that double system. So we got a lot of sales from that. We also sold USBs.
The merch is very nice as well, isn't it?
Thank you.
I like it. Yeah, it's very stylish.
Thank you. I just did the classic like insert poster on a black t-shirt. Like, there we go.
Yeah.
I also sold a few physical posters, and whatever the rest I gave to the cast and crew, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to resell those. And I also sold, I had about 100 USBs, but I sold about 50 of them on the night, and another like 5 or 10 afterwards to the other people who promised were going to come, but they couldn't. So the next best thing I said is, okay, what if I just charge you $15 for a USB with all the shorts? And I'm like, yeah, sweet. And so I was hustling a little bit with that. So yeah, and at the end of the night, we did. I also divided the totals USB sales by 10, because we had like a director and a producer per short film, where they earn their fraction or whatever the total sales were for the USBs, and that included the ticket tiers that included the USBs in that bundle as well. So it wasn't just like separate sales. And so yeah, I divided it all by 10, and that's including myself and 2 of my producer mates. And so I paid them their share, just one, to keep them happy, and also because I promised that I'll do that. It's only fair. And I had one, so I basically had those t-shirts, but I still had some leftover t-shirts. I think I had like 17 or 18 left. And I was thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Then coincidentally, my now friend, who was also the actress in the short film Cassandra, she had a charity boxing match. She was one of the boxers for the charity night. And she introduced me to her now friend called Reg. And he owns a local consignment deal shop, where his business model is he promotes local designers and creates consignment deals with them and sells their t-shirts or their apparel in their shop. They take a 20% commission, but whatever the artist per sale, whatever the artist makes at a certain period of the month, they keep the rest. And I thought, okay, that's actually that's pretty good. I'll help him. He'll help me in that regard.
Yeah.
So we shook hands. He sent me the contract a couple of months ago. We then signed it, and there we go. So that's how I fixed that problem, and I got it in there for 6 months. So, and whatever gets sold, I get sold. I also advertised it locally with other people I knew around that area, as well as on my Instagram, saying that, I got some copy, I got some more t-shirts at this place, for $50. Go ahead, check it out now. And at the same time, I have a YOTKO Apparel website, and I connected the dots from my supplier to my website, where basically I just listed that product in my website for people to buy. Now, in those two, I didn't spend any money advertising it, mainly because I wanted to wait until the short film, I was ready to distribute the short film and then like advertise it all together simultaneously. And so when I was in the midst of making Full Circle, I was doing my research on some platforms that exist in the World Wide Web where you hang on, I've got to go backwards a little bit. And I kept saying like the local opinion, or the main opinion, I should say, is that when people are making short films, when it comes to money or any financial incentives, a lot of people are so quick to dispel that, oh, no one makes money from short films. You can't make money from short films and all that shit. And I would see the reasons why, and it's like, yeah, but those problems also exist for indie feature films and indie documentaries as well. Not just in the streaming
Yeah,
realm, but
that's
also
true.
but just also in theatrical distribution, or maybe even TVOD and DVD sales or anything like that. And I figured, well, short films are just as credible of an art form and a product form as feature films are. They don't
Yeah,
have to be.
absolutely.
They don't have to cost as much to charge. Nowhere near. But at least they should be worth something, or it should be at least be monetizable one way or another. So I created Full Circle just more as a defiance to that, and I started doing research on if there's any other platforms out there beyond just YouTube and Vimeo to slap your short film, and hopefully that gets enough views to warrant ad rev into your accounts and to live off that. So I did my
I wanted to
research, and
ask you about those. Yeah.
there's actually like a whole lot more platforms that not a lot of filmmakers know about that is very applicable and monetizable for short films. So
Mm.
it's not just exhibitionary, but there's also so one example is a Vidiverse. So Alex Proyas, the director of The Crow and iRobot, he created that because he shares the same
Oh,
perspective, the same viewpoint on that. It's a subscription and SVOD base, so people have to subscribe to that. But filmmakers can potentially make money on that platform as well. There's also Daily Motion. You can also put whatever price you want on a digital file. For my case, for Full Circle, it was I charged $2, but you can also do it on Gumroad, Payhip. I created those accounts not just for Full Circle, but for other short films and other products along the way. But that's when I started creating those accounts for that, and I charged $2. And I actually got as of May 2024, and I posted those about 3-4 months ago. Incrementally over time, I got, I don't know, just about $200 worth of sales from those
that's
platforms
good.
alone. And that's
Yeah.
before I started doing my main advertising, like my main expenditure on social media advertising. So there's that as well. There's also WeShort, based in Italy. There's CubeStream. There's AltaVod. There's like there's legit loads like IndieFlix, Phoenix 360, Shorts TV. That's another like pretty popular one. There's also FilmHub now. FilmHub accepts. There's a few channels where FilmHub can aggregate your short film onto other platforms, as long as you don't mind your short film being on another YouTube channels, because they've got a network with Stash TV, and there's already like a good amount of subscribers and a proven track record with that, and I was fine with that, so I just put it on there. I also put it on my YouTube. I also broke down the short film into 5 clips, so then I submitted them as verticals on my YouTube Shorts, and I scheduled them to release day by day by day for the past 5 days because I wanted to take advantage of that system as well. And I also knew that there's gonna be people who maybe watch the first 30 seconds or the first minute and it doesn't bite, and they like skim along to a certain point or probably just ended there. But if I break it down into 5 and into shorts, because YouTube Shorts are getting now very popular, I figured I would maximize my amount of audience, the amount of views by doing both. But there's also Vimeo OTT, charging the $2 there. Daily Motion. There's also Rumble now. Rumble's like getting pretty popular. That's another alternative to YouTube. Short Film Gem, again, I registered for $2. I had a few sales there internationally. And I'm just about to update my website so that now I can list it on my website and people can like buy it off. Again, $2 there if they want to. And for those that are listening right now, they're probably thinking like, in the world of YouTube where people could just watch an ad and they can just watch it for free, who the hell would want to transactionally buy a short film? Well, there's always a market for legit anything and everything. And there's a couple of other reasons why people will want to buy it as opposed to just waiting for an ad. One, there are some people who hate ads with an absolute passion, and I'd rather just pay a one-time fee, get a copy of it forever, and they can watch it to their delight wherever. And there could also be some certain situations where it probably is more practical or makes more sense to buy a copy as opposed to like through a subscription or through any other platform that relies on internet connection to watch it. Because you could be on a plane or on a train or probably in a remote area where Wi-Fi and internet is not that well. But if you planned yourself ahead, and if you know you're going to rewatch it, and if you know you're going to, or if you know you're going to watch it at that certain moment to entertain yourself, like if you're on a flight, whatever, most planes don't really have Wi-Fi, and if they are, they're not very good, at least in Australia. So that's why I see a lot of people like when they buy feature films or they buy books or like audio books, they buy a digital copy and then just watch it and download it into their iPad or whatever, and then just watch it through there. So that's a couple other reasons that I think justifies the sales beyond just local support. And there was some other indirect distributive slash marketing slash monetization efforts tied to Full Circle. Was I basically wrote two blogs. One of them is about just like my experience highlight on what it took to make Full Circle. And another one was another blog about, where to upload short films and how to make money on short films via these platforms. And the last effort of monetization that I don't think any other filmmakers or short film makers are taking into account is that because I've been a photographer for quite a while, and a videographer as well. For the past few years, I've created stock footage and stock photography accounts, and I basically just took my BTS stills, some of my like stills for the film, and each shot that is in the final edit of the film, I re-exported as individual clips, and I submitted those as stock footage on sites like Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, Nimia.com, Dissolve, Alami, like all of those websites essentially, and as well as stills as well, and Storyblocks too, because I figured I might as well maximize the amount of monetization I can get.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
And then sub websites you can look, because there's not all shots, but I was just shotgunning, and there's probably a few shots, standalone shots that people can buy for X or Y reason, whether it be some sort of promotional thing or if it could be some sort of editorial piece. And this is for both my photos and for my clips. And so far, and keep in mind, I've only did this a couple of months ago, so this is a slow but sure burn. But I think as of now, I've made rough on all of my platforms without any advertising at all. I probably just got under $200 worth of sales from my stock photos and my stock footage just from that alone. And it's still a part of the IP. That's still a part of Full Circle. So technically, it still counts as a sale, even if it's just a partial thing of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I
So I
love
figured,
that.
yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Then I really hope any other filmmakers that are listening to this right now, like, please write down these notes, take it, legit, do it, emulate a version of that for yourself. I implore you to do it.
They're brilliant ideas. And also the fact that you didn't like you didn't scrimp on the sound. So the sound design, I think, was really good, because the clip that you gave me, I used on social media. And I think one thing that made that so popular was the impactful like sound behind it. It did really well. So yeah, the shorts are really popular, and the sound make it really impactful. So you're absolutely
Yeah,
right there. And
exactly.
I love that, you know, a lot of people with that extra merch that they had left over would probably just throw it in the corner of their bedroom and it would just sit there for years. But you're being really meticulous and making sure that you're making the most out of those last few pieces, and, you know, making new partnerships as well. Like the guy that you met that's got it in his store, you're going to be able to use them again and again in the future. So you're really building on your
Exactly, yeah.
network. I think a lot of people as well, they don't realize how important a network is when you're becoming a filmmaker. So yeah,
Exactly.
doing a
There's
great job. It's really inspiring and really important that
thank
people
you.
hear this. It's really good advice.
Yeah, thank you. Like, and there's because I'm as I said before, I'm half Greek, right? And I heard this a lot in the communities as well in Australia and in Greece. One hand washes the other. So basically, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. Similar equivalent versions of it, right? And I think that is very, very paramount for not just filmmakers or even artists, but just for humans on society as a whole. And that's where I see a lot of problems, not to the fault or to the detriment of artists or filmmakers ourselves, but we all have a little bit of an ego, and that's an element of us that helps us to be creative and to be artistic. So not bagging that as a negative at all. However, the one sort of detriment is that it makes us more prone to being very egotistical, very egoist, and my way is the correct way, and all others is just nonsense or whatever, and that sometimes that can be a bit of a detriment. And to quote Socrates, the one thing I know for sure is that I know nothing. And I had that at the back of my mind when I was going through the whole production. And that helped me with having the energy to take initiative and to be proactive into researching to what I could do better, what I failed on, and what to do in the next time so that my mistakes are either not as severe or they don't get repeated. And I try to teach these people to other people as well, other filmmakers, so that they don't like stumble themselves onto the wall and don't make the same repeated mistakes, but get too blinded by ego or something else to not see it. And so I made plenty of mistakes when I made Full Circle, as well as my doco, and as well as helping other people. But that's what happens. And as long as one can learn from it, then that's you're always one step ahead of the game. And I
Yeah, it
figured,
allows you to. Yep, go on, go on.
yeah, sorry. And I figured, why not maximize that opportunity as well to be entrepreneurial with your art? Because it doesn't matter what your art is. It doesn't matter if you're a filmmaker or a painter or a writer or anything. I think we're essentially, as indie filmmakers, we're essentially self-employed in that regard, unless you're hired by a big production company to work as crew or cast in an outside of production. And even then, you're still freelancers, technically, union or non-union. So I figured, why not just be entrepreneurial with all other, in not the exact same, but in a similar manner to how other self-employed people in other industries sort of operate to promote their business. And when I saw how artists are not very, I want to say artists or indie filmmakers, from my examples when I was growing up, from not just from the people around me, but to other filmmakers, when I hear their horror stories or their other stories, whatever, it makes me feel a little bit sad knowing that there's and it's the banging the head against the wall of not taking finance or not taking some sort of on borderline entrepreneurial or somewhat business minded tactics or elements to approach. And I just got me thinking, like, if this was in any other industry, you would go bankrupt immediately. Like, no business would be operable if they operated the same way as a lot of creatives do at the start, where they think, they make a product and then just instantly put it into film festivals and hopefully it makes money somehow without doing any prior research, without doing any actions to make that come true. So I was essentially just trying to be entrepreneurial with my first film, Full Circle, and I was using that as an experiment to see what my results would be from my efforts, to see what I could learn through that through my next projects, as well as to grow my future audience, because I know this is just a start and I'll lead to bigger things in the future. We all got to start from somewhere, you know?
Yeah, I think you've made an excellent start.
Oh, thank you. And also, I would like to. I forgot to talk about the marketing as well. Like, I need to emphasize that as
I'm
well.
happy to sit here for longer. So if you've got more time, I'm happy to sit
Yeah,
here for
yeah,
longer.
yeah. I've got more time. Don't worry. So what I did was, through social media wise, I marketed my screening, 2023, October 2023,
Was
as
it
well
3
as
weeks, did you
when,
say you marketed the screening before it actually,
yeah,
before the premiere? 3 weeks.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right. I should have done a little bit longer if I had more time, but I was a little bit in a bit of a crunch. So I
Yeah, I want
figured
to
three
go through
weeks,
what you
5
would have
months, yeah.
changed on the whole project towards the
Yeah.
end. So we want to know what
Um,
you've learned and what you're going to do next time differently. But yeah, let's hear about
yeah.
your marketing.
So what I learned is to have a little bit of a bigger marketing window, because 2 to 3 weeks is usually not the most effective timing window. Like, you hear about concerts like around 2, 3, 4 months before the concert night, and you usually hear about feature films, big Hollywood feature films around 3 weeks to a month, here and there, bits and bobs, until the release date. But the main problem is that, one, they spend a lot of marketing dollars on integrated ads and like Facebook ads and Instagram ads, and they pump like loads of those, so they already get millions of eyeballs like in that short span of a time frame. Whereas if you got a tighter budget, in order to maximize the amount of audience and the amount of people to garner impressions to see it, you need to do a little bit longer. Just here and there, but a little bit longer. So that's what I would recommend to do it. For marketing, just do it a little bit longer. Even if you have to release it a little bit later in order to do it, it will help you a lot more in the long run. So I did Facebook advertising, and it's still going right now as of this recording. But what I first did with Facebook and Instagram ads under the Meta Business Suite is that I had a budget of $300 as a tester, and it was $5 a day for 2 months. I started that early April, and I put in I put in the interests, like films, short films, people who like documentaries, people who like black and white, people who like noir, like those sort of people that share those interests, and Facebook can funnel and advertise that to people with those interests. And I also targeted like basically almost every country in the world, and it gives you a range of, minimum amount of impressions per day to maximum amount of impressions per day. And that's all dependent on what your budget is per day. So I put $5 per day. It got anywhere from 1 to 3,500 impressions per day. That was sort of the range. So I was like, okay, I'd try that.
That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Is that pretty good?
Yeah. And I noticed that the cost per clicks were good, but the way with Facebook algorithm worked was that it focused a lot of the attention, like the main traffic was from, not so much from the Western countries like Australia, UK, USA, Canada, South Africa, but instead was a lot from Asia and Southeast Asia, like Philippines, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, which is all fine. But I wanted to instead of it being funneled and targeted into a specific region in the world, I wanted it to be maximize my reach of audience throughout the rest of the world. So instead, what I did is I canceled that ad, and I created 3 new ads. And with each ad, I targeted specific regions across the world. So with the first one, it was all the Western countries: Australia, New Zealand, UK, USA, Mexico, Canada, and South Africa. So a lot of the English-speaking countries. So that's number one. Number two, I did basically all the countries in Europe where English is not the lingua franca. So Greece, Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, Cyprus, Turkey. I couldn't do Russia because of the sanctions and all that, but I could do Ukraine. And I did it with Israel, and I really, really tried to do it with Palestine, but because of the current Israel-Palestine conflict, Facebook just would not permit me to do it. So that's a bit unfortunate, but it had to be done. I had no other choice. And then the other one, the final one, I then focused that throughout all of Asia. So Philippines, China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Laos, India, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, all the Southeast Asia and all that beyond. And I did $2 per ad. So that was $6 a day. And I'm still, as of this recording, until late June, running that. So that still equates to roughly $300 at the end. And I found out that the traffic was a lot more spurred out. And I got a little bit more impressions per day, but instead of the majority of the impressions being from a certain center of the world, it was more spread out. Not equally spread out, but more spread out, amongst the world. And I'm mainly because of budget constraints, I'm mainly going to do with a Facebook ad first. Then once it finishes their term, I'm then going to do the promotion, where you can pay to promote, boost post feature. Then I'm going to do it onto Twitter. Then I'm going to do it onto LinkedIn. Then I'm going to do that onto Reddit. And then I'm going to try to do that with TikTok with my trailer as well. So in the span of the next 4 to 6 months, with each current, consecutive month, I'm going to switch platforms and run paid advertisers there to maximize the amount of traffic instead of limiting it from one source, i.e. Facebook. And what I used in my ad was my trailer and my poster. I just kept it simple. And in the meantime, I've still got some platforms that I'm currently pending to distribute on. I haven't fully distributed it yet, but I'm currently pending ones like Short Indies. I've also just got it on Facebook Watch now. We Shorts, The Vault, that's a local one. Cine Shorts, and Vidiverse is just on its way. I'm just about to get that published. But yeah, hopefully that's some food for thought and some hope for any filmmakers that are watching us, that yes, you can make films. I don't want you to get fined to that bullshit doctrine that you can't make shorts, you can't make money with shorts. Shorts are only for the only way to do it is as a creative outlet only, and to only use it as some sort of visual proof of concept so that you can adapt it into a feature film counterpart, and hopefully some big studio is impressed enough with you to fund the thing. And I just got sort of sick of that being doctrine of that just being the only way or the only incentive to create a short film. I'm like, no, there's a whole audience for short films scattered around the world. Why isn't that viewed as a credible niche or a credible genre of creativity compared to feature-length documentaries or episodic content or feature films or even TV? Because when you think about it, each episode is its own sort of short film. When you think about it, it's got its own. They usually have their own stories, even if they are webbed and connected by future episodes. So in that sort of form, they are accepted. And I figured, why are short films different? And my belief is that those people that are the older people that are practicing that same doctrine is because they haven't really caught up with the times, and they think that, because people are watching it for free on YouTube, there's no money to be made. There's still ads. Filmmakers get their cut from YouTube from that, so it's not completely exhibitionist, and people still make money through that. And you can still make money, by charging indie tickets, by giving them an incentive, by having more than one short in one night to give a bang for their buck, for people to give an excuse to go on a night out. and to rally up that network and to support one another in that way. And hopefully, if I use people get inspired by what I'm doing and use that as an example that, hang on, maybe what if I just want to be a short filmmaker? What if that's my niche? What if that's that's the only content I want to do? Okay, you can do that. You don't have to confine to just being a freelance filmmaker working for other people to expand your creative outlets and to only make money or to make a living. You can do it with this way. Nowhere near as much money as, you know, the examples of feature films and documentaries, but still, you know, increments here and there, as long as you're being entrepreneurial and as long as you're not having only one source on monetization. I sort of view it in a similar fashion to how people are investing in stocks. You know, you can't invest in more than just one stock or one ETF. If you invest, it doesn't matter how much, pennies or dollars, whatever, if you invest into multiple stocks and in case one falls, then you still got the rest of the other in your basket to cover yourself, because if one falls, usually one will go a little bit higher or stay the same, so that you haven't really technically lost anything, or you've made a much smaller loss. Similar thinking of diversity for monetization with the short films. I mean, why do Marvel movies and Disney films do that as well? They broadcast their short films onto, you know, before their main Disney film starts. And they also create some sort of, maybe the short film is wrapped around an early preconceived IP that they're about to fund and make into a feature adaptation. Or maybe they create it's already part of an existing IP and it's just a short form story as an add-on, or like in gaming terms, like a DLC sort of thing. They're there. And that's how Disney got as big as they are. The second they put Mickey Mouse on a t-shirt, that's where a lot of that's where sort of a lot of the main money is doing. And I'm trying to replicate a similar model to that, granted on a much, much smaller scale, but similar methods to what I'm doing. And not just limited to my short films. Any projects that I make along the way that I create under YOTKO Productions, I'm also going to emulate a formula and tweak it so that each production is unique on its operations, but it will still, on a macro perspective, be implemented in this same way. And I mainly got inspired by Alex Ferrari for being a film entrepreneur, and that's what I want to be. And so I'm implementing those steps into doing that.
I'd say you already are a film entrepreneur, for sure.
Thank you.
And it's also something that, you know, happens over a period of time. It doesn't have to happen overnight. So you're definitely, you know, it's that mind that keeps going. And also, I think it's really important to point out something that you're doing is that you're looking back over the stats of those marketing campaigns, those ads that you're putting out on the social channels. You can't just put them out and, you know, expect the best. You are looking at the stats and you're altering the ad campaigns to get the most out of them. So I think that's really important.
Exactly, yeah. And this is from me who thought marketing and advertising was my ick as a creator for the longest time. I thought that was something I didn't want to touch or not my responsibility, like, because I either wasn't very good at it or I just didn't like it. But if we're going to operate as a business, as an entrepreneur, you're basically running your own business. And
you are, absolutely. And marketing is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and marketing is essentially just telling people, hey, this thing exists. You may or may not like it, but why don't you delve more into it and see if you like it a bit more? It's just basically telling people that something exists, a product or a service or an experience. That's all it really is. It's nothing. It doesn't have to be viewed as this sense of like conniving manipulation or some sense of some sort of propaganda, adhering to a certain, depending how you view it, nefarious agenda to something. It could just be telling people, hey, this thing exists and I would like to show it because that's who I am as a creative and I hope you enjoy it. And if you want to do it, here's the incentive, here's the caveat. Here's the I don't want to say barrier, but here's the thing that permits you to go and see it.
And what else would you do differently then? Is there anything else on your list? And also not just the marketing side of it, but with production as well, planning the shoot, things like that.
Yeah, this one's definitely my fault in the sense that I was putting my fingers into many pies, and I worried that I was stretching myself too thin, and that's why I thought, even though it's my first short film, it would take a little bit of time. I knew that, but I thought I could do it a little bit shorter, had I been more focused on just creating my short film from beginning to end, instead of trying to do that from beginning to end, but also at the same time take into account my YOTKO apparel business, and also me with my documentary, and also me helping other filmmakers as cast or crew in their projects too. So if I sometimes my advice is, as passionate as you may be to want to get involved with anything and everything, especially when you're starting out, try not to stretch yourself too thin, because you can be very prone to burning out, and then sabotaging yourself, or maybe even exhaust yourself and start to go a little bit, sick physically or mentally. And none of us want that. It is
No,
what it
that's
is.
true. Yeah, it's easily done when you're so ambitious, and you always feel like you're against the clock kind of thing. Do it as quickly as possible and in competition with everyone else. But especially artistically, things do take time, don't they?
Mm. Oh, also, by the way, I should add as well, in the screening night as well, the parents of my deceased friend, they just started up a charity about called Epi Awareness, and it's about, because he needed an EpiPen, and he didn't have one to save his life. So it's more just trying to incentivize businesses and like brick and mortar stores and institutions to have an EpiPen in their first aid kit, because in Australia it's optional. It's not a required piece of kit. So they're using that charity, and all the proceeds from that charity would be used to fund EpiPens, and to like can spread awareness, to convince businesses to like, hey, we'll cover an EpiPen cost as long as you make a promise to like put it in your first aid kit, to prevent people succumbing to the same tragic situation that my best friend did. He didn't have an EpiPen in time, his throat closed up, and he passed away from an allergic reaction. And so I essentially technically made no profit from my first screening. It was more just to prove that I can make money. I can create an event, I can make money, because I donated my proceeds to the charity as a promise to the parents.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic, and I totally agree. It should be essential, and it's just crazy that it isn't. So necessary loss. Sure.
Thank you so much. I don't mean to end it on a somber note, but I figured I thought it'd be important if I let everyone know. That's all.
I don't think it should be a somber note. I think people should talk about death more, actually. My dad died last year, and there's a few people I
I'm very
spoke to
sorry to hear
about
that.
it. Yeah, thank you. And they just kind of dispersed, and I never heard from them again. And or like people I've messaged, I had to cancel some arrangements, and it's like they didn't even message back. And I don't know, it's just very odd. It's everyone's going to go through it. You're going to die yourself one day, and we shouldn't be so afraid of talking about it. Like, obviously it's not the nicest thing, but don't just ignore it.
Yeah. Not
So
ignore it, but
it's good
I
to
think we
spread
all
the
have
message.
a
No, not you, but
yeah.
some people.
It's I don't so much. Well, I think the reason why we ignore it is because, like, you could be the most depressed, the most suicidal oriented person, or the most negative person. We're all hypochondriacs to a degree. No one
Yeah,
truly
that's true.
wants to die,
I
no
have
matter
my
how
issues with
grim our
that for
reality
sure.
may be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we tend to ignore it. Not so out of manners, but more so just because everyone's terrified of it. No one
It's
we
scary.
if we could live forever, I think we'd want to.
Yeah. So realize how close I am to the screen. It's a bit much for people. You don't need to
That's
see inside my
no,
pores.
it's all right. That's all right.
Um, what's next? What projects are you working on currently? What can we expect to see next?
Well, as I said, I'm still finishing my doco. And so as a promise to myself, I'm not getting involved in anyone else's productions until I've got mine finished and mine sorted. And basically, it'll be modified, but I'm going to replicate a certain story, the same operations, the same scenario with my documentary. So this time it will be feature length and not a short documentary. And basically, because it already follows a certain niche, bodybuilding in this case, I'm going to go a little bit more above and beyond. I've already learned the mistakes and I've already learned the process with full circle on a shorter scale. And that's helped me prepare myself so that when I go in a feature length documentary, I know one, I'm more confident in what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and I can probably get more financial backing to help fund more of the advertising costs and go further. Because if I can show the positive examples of not just financially, but process wise to show that I'm doing to any other potential backers or potential investors that, hey, if I can do this with a short film, imagine how successful I could do it with a feature length documentary, inspire confidence in them and make it more sure or more, not guaranteed, but more secure in the chances of my distribution and my handling with my doco to go even further to people in that audience.
And
So
what are your
that's
thoughts?
about it.
What are
And
your
I've
thoughts?
also, oh, sorry, and I've also
Sure.
got I've got a bunch of other scripts and a bunch of other concepts that I will eventually make and get down to it and make it down the road from there after I finish the doco.
These things take time, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
What do you think about, are you thinking about in terms of funding the documentary?
Well, the shooting throughout the whole year was paid to me as a one-man crew by the client. And I said to them in the editing phase, no need to pay me at all because that's fine, I'll do it, by myself. And basically the ROI from the client, or that the whole documentary is focused on,
So you were
it's a
hired
six,
to make the
yeah,
documentary then through your production
yeah,
company. Oh, okay,
that's right, yeah.
excellent. That's
And I
brilliant.
figured
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And I figured I'd combine the freelance economic system with the entrepreneurial economic system of me taking the helm and with their help and with the other outsiders' help, um, advertise it and when it's ready to be released by doing like a cross-country theatrical run where we hire theaters for the pricing and then get local sponsors that's in the bodybuilding scene, those sort of companies, those sort of institutions, convince them to like be on board. They may get a cut of the profits if they're an investor. Otherwise, if they're a sponsor, we can find non-financial ROIs for them that will be tied to the promotion of the screenings throughout the cross country, then to distribution or self-distribution in this case, along with other further promotions as well. Like, we're going on this podcast, as an example.
Mm, mm. Okay, I think that's everything then. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add
Great.
in terms of people shooting short films,
Yeah.
going on their first shoot, nervous.
This is what I don't I don't want people to take this the filmmakers. I don't want them to take it the wrong way. In fact, I want them to be wanted to say to be very liberating. I had this exact thought in my head throughout the whole production process. Your first one will always be shit, but that's okay. That is legit okay because everyone that starts out, doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what their first production is. In contrast to your other work, when your skills are more refined, your vision is more clear, like in terms of your overall like artistic vision in whatever projects you're in. Once that becomes more clear and more ingrained, um, by contrast, your first one will be shit. But I'll go as the first to say that Steven Spielberg's first short film was shit. James Cameron's first short films was shit. Maybe Quentin Tarantino's first script was shit in comparison to their later work. I think the same ideals for me. And hopefully, if you have that mantra in there, that can help you liberate yourself from the self-imposed stress that you need to get it right, you need to get it perfect like on the first go. Doesn't matter how great you think you are. Doesn't matter how good the other acclaimed filmmakers that we take for granted, like Quentin Tarantino, Peter Jackson, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron. I'm pretty sure their first, in contrast to their later known work, are going to be terrible. So I don't want you to try to take those who are listening as negatively. In fact, I want you to think of it as a positive that, okay, it's going to be shit regardless. So might as well just have fun with it.
And don't let it dishearten you when it's shit at the end. Like,
yeah, and in fact, they say
afterwards.
in fact, they say that there's your movie is one way when you write it. It's going to be another movie when you're shooting it. It's going to be another movie when you edit it. So it's never good. Your art and your vision is never going to be 100% consistent from beginning to end throughout.
And it's all a learning curve. So
yeah, it's all a learning curve. And for me, that's what makes it fun, knowing that I'm learning something every day, regardless of whether it's through a failure or through an alternative or through even a success. It legit doesn't matter to me.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. You've been an absolutely fabulous guest.
Thank you so much.
You've shared some really valuable information. It's been fantastic. And I can't wait to see what else you go on to do in the future.
Super exciting. Absolutely. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope we get to do this again.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd love to have you back on the podcast. So brilliant.
No worries, mate.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. See ya.